Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, we're looking at the top players to target in Gameweek 35 Sun Dream Team. There's just 3 game weeks remaining for the rest of the season, which means just 6 transfers left for most of us. So these final few transfers are going to be crucial. So the Gameweek 35 deadline this week is Saturday 1:30 p.m. So a later deadline. There won't be any deadline stream for me. I'm actually out on that Saturday, so sorry to let you all down. I have to make sure that I do keep an eye and don't miss the deadline myself ahead of those 3 p.m. kickoffs. So we've got Fulham, Everton, Ipswich, Brentford, Southampton, Man City, and Wolves, Brighton, all kicking off at 3. You may get a few team leaks, especially for City. City seem to be one of the teams that do get a few leaks online, but I wouldn't pin your hopes on it too much because the leaks tend to be coming out sort of 1 or 2 minutes before the deadline recently, and that's not really enough time to really do anything. So Game Week 35 single for all teams this week. So no real doubles to target at all for this game week, but then we have got Game Week 36, which will be City, Palace in the FA Cup plus Premier League. And then we'll also have the Europa League finalists playing that final in Game Week 36, although we do not know who will be there yet. But I'm recording this on Thursday morning, so we will have the second legs in Europa League and Conference League taking place. So we'll have a bit of a clearer picture afterwards. You'd have to think that all 3 English teams are going to be making those finals. So the Europa League final, Game Week 36, alongside the FA Cup finals or final. And then Game Week 37 will be the Europa Conference League final. So all teams will play once in the Premier League in that final game week of the season, and Chelsea will have, if they get through, their champions, their Europa Conference League final. So could be worth looking for your last transfers to build for Game Week 36 finals, build for Game Week 37 finals, or if you do think there's going to be rotation and that you're probably not going to get those extra games out of the players, then you could just target the single game week sides and go for 3 single game week teams. But the maximum is 4. There is no Game Week 38 now with the Champions League final because my team, Arsenal, were eliminated last night. So that's a shame. They've not only ended their season, but they've brought the end of the Dream Team season a little bit closer. So like I said, just 3 game weeks remaining. And last bit of fixture news as well. So Villa versus Spurs moved from Game Week 36. Well, it still is in Game Week 36. There was rumours that it could move and possibly go into 35 and make a double there. Didn't happen. That's been announced now that fixture has moved. Still in Game Week 36, but it becomes a Friday kickoff. So the Friday of Game Week 36 will actually now have that Villa Spurs match and the Chelsea United match. So if both teams do make the Europa League final, they'll have the same amount of time between their Premier League fixture and the final. So no real change there when it comes to double game weeks. Let's look at Game Week 35 though, specifically. So who has the best fixtures to target in Game Week 35? Now I'm going to start things off with Manchester City. So unbeaten now in 9 matches and a 5-match winning streak. So City do always seem to string one of these runs together. It seems like they are on one at the moment, and it's Southampton away from home in Game Week 35. So it looks like a pretty obvious one to target. And then the benefit of obviously going for City is you get the double game week in Game Week 36, which will be Crystal Palace in that FA Cup final, plus Bournemouth at home in the Premier League. And then they round off the season with Fulham away from home. So I do think the remainder of these Man City fixtures do look quite nice. Liverpool and Arsenal, so both face off this game week. I don't particularly think this is ideal. So it's going to be played at Anfield. I think Arsenal probably going to be on a little bit of a downer if they feel the same way as I feel right now. But we do have to still get those wins, because what would make the season worse is if we didn't wrap up second place as well. And it's starting to get a little bit shaky after that loss last week. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Arsenal. Liverpool rotated fairly heavily for Chelsea, or at least in midfield, and then lost that game. I imagine they're going to go quite strong for us. So, yeah, I don't know how to call this game. I didn't like it for the Chelsea players. I didn't like it for the Liverpool players last week. And obviously, Palmer ended up doing pretty well. So maybe it could be an okay fixture to target. But ordinarily, I think that's one to dodge. United, so a good fixture with West Ham at home. But obviously, we need to see how they do this evening against Bilbao. Obviously, rotated the entire team for that last Premier League match against Brentford. It looks like they're completely willing to rotate in the Prem now and fully focus on Europe, and don't blame them either. But West Ham, game at 35, game at 36 will be Chelsea away from home, and it could be paired with a Europa League final in that second match. So it would be a Friday, Wednesday turnaround in Europe. And then they finish the season against Aston Villa in game week 37. What they do with that Chelsea lineup or the Villa lineup, I'm not particularly sure. It obviously depends how far the European matches go. West Ham, I imagine they would go. I feel like they should really go strong, because if you're going to go fully rotated against West Ham, you can't go fully rotated against Chelsea as well before the Europa League final. So, yeah, I think Bruno probably plays that one, but it is a risk now with teams like United and Spurs. Newcastle and Chelsea face each other this week, so that will be at Newcastle. Both still fighting for Europe, though, so are going to go strong, got loads to play for. And then Chelsea do have that likely extra fixture in game week 37. So the Chelsea guys could be useful to bring in from now till the end of the season if you want to get that final game of the season in game week 37. Villa, Bournemouth away. I think that's a tough fixture. Obviously, Bournemouth just done a number of my team, Arsenal, away from home. I think this is probably not the best week to target Villa for Bournemouth away from home, but obviously still to play for Villa. Spurs and United, though, to end the season. So I think targeting that Spurs match in game week 36 and United in game week 37, either side of that Europa League final, could be a good play, but I just don't think Villa is really the week to do it. Palace, so Tottenham away from home this week. So Tottenham obviously playing this evening against Bodo Glimt. Travelling a pretty long way. Is it Norway? I think it is. So there's going to be travel involved. That Thursday, Sunday turnaround. I think they're probably going to rotate pretty heavily again, Spurs. So Crystal Palace will have that benefit, but obviously Crystal Palace have an FA Cup final in their own mind as well at the weekend after. So maybe Palace do rotate a little bit, but there still is, I think, 6 games between the Palace Spurs game and the cup final. So should be enough turnaround, but there might be a bit of reduced minutes for Palace. After that, so Spurs, it's double game week for Palace of City and Wolves. So City obviously at Wembley, Wolves at home, and then they end the season in game week 37 away at Liverpool, which probably isn't the best end to the season. But I think Palace, if you want to try and get that double game week in game week 36, could be a way to go. Then we've got Wolves. I like their fixture this week. So it's Brighton at home. Brighton obviously looked a lot better at the weekend against Newcastle. But I think Wolves on a nice run, 6 wins in a row before facing Manchester City. I think that loss against Manchester City, even though it's quite close, is probably going to put Wolves out of people's minds. But I don't think we should forget that they have had some good players, some good quality players to potentially choose from. So we will do a slide on them. So they have Brighton at home this week, Crystal Palace away in game week 36, but that will take place in midweek because Crystal Palace have their FA Cup final at the weekend. So there's a chance that Wolves will be playing against a pretty tired Crystal Palace side. And then they end the season with Brentford at home Wolves. Now, Brentford will be interesting this week. So it's Ipswich away from home, which is a great fixture to target. And Brentford are looking really, really good. Scoring a load of goals. I think it's 3 wins in a row now for Brentford. I think Brentford are going to be popular. We saw Mbumo enter a lot of people's teams last week. I managed to dodge the points mostly last week. So will people add extra Brentford players to their team? We'll do a slide on them. But after Ipswich, it's Fulham at home and then Wolves away. So I don't think those final 3 fixtures look terrible for Brentford. I think they're worth targeting. And then Forest. So Leicester at home this week. It looks like an amazing one to target. But Forest have gone off the boil a little bit. Maybe the pressure fighting for these European places or Champions League place right down to the wire is catching up with them a little bit. But you can't deny that Leicester home fixture looks good. And then West Ham away from home in that Gameweek 36 fixture looks quite nice to target as well. Final game of the season would be Chelsea at home, which could possibly be a pretty massive game in the run for Europe. So I think Forest could also be interesting. I'm just a little bit concerned that they're having a little bit of a dip at the moment. So let's have a look at some players to target. As always, there'll be timestamps below so you can skip around if you're looking for segments on specific teams. And if you get anything valuable along the way, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But let's get straight into it. So Manchester City first, I mentioned them. Is it time to go quite heavy on Manchester City? So I've already got a triple up in my team of Vardiol, Kevin De Bruyne and Marmoush. And I'm still looking at City this week thinking, could I maybe squeeze a few more players into my team? So 1-0 win against Wolves, Kevin De Bruyne goal. This week it's Southampton away and then a double game week in Gameweek 36 of Crystal Palace in that final. And then Bournemouth at home. I think those 2 game weeks do look quite appealing. It might be difficult to try and pick players that will get sort of free matches across here, but you'd imagine still they need to get the wins in the Premier League and then obviously to come away with a trophy at the end of the season will be probably not as important for City because they do it all the time anyway, but in the season that they've had to still win a trophy would be really, really good. So Marmoush to start with, 5 million. So the second most transferred in player last game week, but disappointed. So just the 2 points for him. And he was playing in a sort of strange position. He was playing on the sort of right wing. Actually, you had Doku on the left wing, Kevin De Bruyne playing as like a false 9 almost, and then Marmoush out on the right, which I don't think we've seen before from him at City at least. I would still buy him for this Southampton match. I watched that match on the Friday night and I didn't particularly think that it worked well for Marmoush. And I can't really see him doing it again. And then if he ends up playing in that sort of behind the striker role, if Haaland starts, or in the striker role, if Haaland doesn't start, or even off the left, I still really did like Marmoush for periods of the season. But somehow I have just managed to dodge every single one of his returns this season. I started with him for that cup match against Leyton Orient, I think it might have been. Got nothing out of him. Basically, just like 2 free shots on target, I think it was. And 90 minutes, but no haul. Took him out, missed the hat-trick. And he's been getting attacking returns pretty much ever since, apart from when I've bought him back. So I'm going to keep him. I really want to try and at least get one attacking return from him this season. So I'm going to keep him on my side. And I still think I would buy him for this run of Southampton, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. The only concern I have, or would have, if I was looking to bring him in is what happens now with KDB and Haaland. So I was looking back. Obviously, Haaland was on the bench for this Wolves match. Didn't get on at all. But surely he's going to get into the team at some point, or at least get included at some point. But Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland and Marmoush haven't started a game together this season from what I've seen. So if Kevin De Bruyne is at false 9, then that's fine. I think there's places for Marmoush to play. If Haaland comes into the team, what do they do? I think the logical thing would be maybe Haaland as the striker, De Bruyne as the 10, and Marmoush off the left. But we just haven't quite seen it yet. So that is the slight risk. Does one of them miss out if Haaland comes in? Kevin De Bruyne got 10 points, goal, obviously playing false 9. He's on 6 goals, 10 assists now for the season. I expect he starts again for Southampton. But maybe there's reduced minutes for the FA Cup final. But he didn't start the FA Cup semi-final. So maybe there is a chance that just Pep has a team in mind or an idea in mind of what he will want to do for the final. But I don't know. You have to surely play your strongest side, and surely Kevin De Bruyne is in it. Haaland, 7.8. So made the bench. Was an unused sub, though. So I would only risk bringing Haaland in this game week if we know for certain that he's starting. It is one of the early kickoffs, so there's a chance that we could get leaks. But like I said, the leaks are dropping like 1-2 minutes before the deadline now. And I really hate messing around with making transfers that late. I feel like the app or the website can let you down at times if you do that. So it is risky. If I did know for certain, though, that Haaland was starting, I'd bring him in. The question is, what would be the knock-on effects? Because if Marmoush was benched, maybe I'll just swap Marmoush to Haaland. But if Haaland and Marmoush both start, would I bring Haaland in for one of my other strikers? But then what do I do with Kevin De Bruyne? Will they all start together? We'll have to just wait and see. I'll discuss that at the end when I come on to my team. But one thing's for sure, I think if Haaland is starting, I will be bringing him into my team. And he will be a captaincy contender, I think, for this game week. So captaincy at the end as well. Doku 4.4. I don't think we can really go there just because the sheer amount of options that City have. But I do feel like he had a really good game off the left. 7 points, got an assist, very close to getting those 3 bonus points that we see him get really regular. So 39 bonus for the season. 6 goals, 9 assists. Decent enough return. But just some of those names on the bench. Obviously, Haaland was on the bench. I know he doesn't play there, but it could have a knock-on effect. But you got Foden, Grealish, Savinho, McAtee, all players that could come in those attacking positions. So I just think it's a little bit of risk to go for Doku. Vardiol, though, I think he's in a lot of teams at the moment. He's in my team. I'm happy with that. I think if you haven't got a City defender, I think Vardiol is the standout option to go for this week. So come away with 3 bonus points. Obviously got the clean sheet. And it's 3 clean sheets in their last 4 games now for City. So finding a little bit of solidarity at the back. That Diaz-Vardiol partnership, I think, has been working really well. We did see O'Reilly come off in the second half quite early, 58th minute. Akanji came on for him, and then we got to see Vardiol back at left back. So maybe there's a chance that we do see that again between now and the end of the season, or maybe it starts to happen more regular. But I think adding another City defender to the mix or goalkeeper isn't a bad idea. So I think it would be Diaz or Ederson at this point. Diaz is playing a ton of games now. Doesn't really get any of these extra points like we like from some of these fullbacks. But if you're targeting clean sheets, I don't mind it. And then Ederson. I mean, you could always swap your keeper. I'm on Alisson at the moment. I'm not particularly happy with it. I'm looking at these fixtures thinking they're pretty good for City. The only thing I would say about Ederson, I was chatting with the Dream Team Tonic podcast on Monday. So you can check that one out. There'll be a link in the description below. But Ben reminded us that Ortega has played a lot of the cup matches for City in the FA Cup. So I guess there is a chance that Ortega comes in as the keeper for that FA Cup final. That is the only concern if you do go for Ederson. But you would still get the 3 Premier League matches, I guess, that would also include Southampton away. So I don't mind either of those. And even a ballsy play could be to go for all 3 of them. We haven't seen much of it, but maybe bringing back a block for City could be something that's interesting. Brentford, 3 wins in a row with that 4-3 win against Manchester United. It looks like a close scoreline, but it didn't really feel it during the game. So Brentford absolutely dominated, I think. And Man United with a couple of late goals to make it look closer than what it was. But it's 3 wins in a row now for Brentford, scoring 10 goals in those 3 matches as well. So not only are they in good form, the goals are flying in. But one person that didn't manage to get on the score sheet was Brian Mbeumo, 4.6 million. So he's 47.8% owned now in the top 1K. So definitely not a differential after being the most transferred in. 5-point assist, though. I think you would be disappointed with that. He was 1 ppm off getting a bonus point. At one point, it looked like he might not even get the assist where it took a bit of a deflection, but came away with 5 points, 18 goals, 9 assists now for the season. I think he's a great option. I think he's a captaincy option for this game week. I think maybe people might be a little bit disheartened. Again, there's recency, isn't there? So people see just an assist and might rule him out for this game week in terms of captaincy. But I think he's a great shout. 17 points against Ipswich in the last match they faced them at home with a brace. So I think Mbeumo, decent captaincy pick for this week, and someone that I'd want to own if I didn't already own, but it doesn't look like it's going to be much of a differential. Vissa, 4.1 million. So goal, 10 points. He's up to 18 goals, 5 assists now for the season. I don't mind doubling up. So I think if you've got just Mbeumo in your team, obviously 47% ownership, it's gonna go even higher, isn't it, this week? I think just having Mbeumo isn't going to be much of a gain, really, unless you really do think one of your mini league rivals isn't going to go for him. You're probably not going to get that much gain now from Mbeumo. But maybe the gain comes from either captaining him or adding Visser to the equation, 4.1 million, and going for that double up. So you could either do both. You could get Visser in and captain Mbeumo and really go all in on Brentford. But I think you maybe have to take one of those directions now to get the true benefit from this Brentford fixture. So I don't mind that. I don't mind doubling up and getting that differential with Mbeumo's percentage being so high. Sharda, 3.3 million. So grab the brace, 17 points. That's what we wanted from Brian Mbeumo, really. He's had 3 goals in his last 2 games, but I still would prefer Visser and Mbeumo. I think if you are choosing Sharda, I think it kind of feels like you're choosing the guy that's just scored last week. I know he did get a goal the game before that, but I don't think he can say that he's a better pick than Mbeumo or Visser. I won't be choosing him, but Coyote, that fullback from Brentford, 2.4 million. I've not seen that much of him this season, but I was watching this game and I was really impressed by him taking long throws from either side. And he just had that top spin on it, like Rory Delap style, that was making it look really dangerous with the way that Brentford usually approach set pieces. They were sending up both centre backs for the throw-ins. I could just see him. We got an assist in this game. Wasn't from a throw-in, but I can just see him possibly getting another couple of attacker returns between now and the end of the season. Also got 11 ppm, free bonus, very close to max bonus. So maybe an exciting one to look out for next season. He's on loan, but maybe they've got some sort of option to get him for next season. So yeah, one to watch. Newcastle. So I mentioned I don't really like this fixture. Chelsea at home. I didn't really like the Chelsea fixture last week either, but there were still point scorers in it. So huge battle for the Champions League places. And I think quite tough fixtures now for Newcastle. So Chelsea, followed by Arsenal away, followed by Everton at home. So I don't particularly like it. I was interested in maybe selling Alexander Isak for this game week. Chelsea have had 4 wins in a row as well, so even tougher. But the 89th minute penalty goal from Isak might make me reconsider. So 9 points for Isak. I don't think there's any other Newcastle players that we're going to want to target, to be honest, for this remaining 3 games. But do we hold Alexander Isak? So 9 points, got that penalty goal late on. There was a few penalty shouts in this game as well. So none of them given apart from the last one. But could it have been much more again? We see the value of penalty takers with Palmer this week, with Isak this week. So it is worth getting these penalty takers in your team. He's the 3rd highest striker on the game, Isak. 27 goals, 9 assists, 67% ownership. So if you are taking it on and you are taking a risk of maybe taking Isak out of your team, you just got to be aware of the risks because he is a highly owned player. But I think if you are chasing in your mini leagues, I think you can take it on, depending on your appetite for risk. So Marmoush, Haaland, I think if confirmation of starting against Southampton could be options to replace him with. I think Visser and Mbeumo, while Visser hasn't got the sort of pen share like Isak, I still think there's a good chance that he outscores Isak in this fixture. Mbeumo, if you haven't got him, Wood, Leicester at home could be an option. I don't think I'm back Wood as much as Isak, despite the fixture. I think Cunha, Brighton at home, is probably a close shout. And then Watkins, Bournemouth away. Not as sure where he doesn't get the pens, but there are options. If you are neck and neck in a mini league and you're trying to find a way to go different, I don't hate taking out Isak for Chelsea. But I do think if you wait to game at 36 Arsenal away, maybe that is a little bit of a better fixture to do it for. Manchester United, so it's a home single against West Ham. They still got to play this evening. Amorim, before this Brentford game, said the first thing is that the players that are in risk to get injured will not play versus Brentford, no matter what. I read that, and I still thought that Bruno's had his rest. He'll probably start. But he didn't. He was benched. I think really the only significant starter that we see on a real regular basis, Garnacho, Dorgu potentially in there, but Onana was swapped in goal. Pretty much the whole back line was rotated other than Dorgu. You had Chido Obi, ex-Arsenal, starting up top it was full rotation. So I think we could be a little bit worried now going forward that Bruno isn't completely nailed. He was capped by 87.2% of the top 1K, including myself for this game week, for a 0-pointer in the Brentford game. But there still is Bilbao to play tonight, and we saw what he did against them in the last match. So I'm not massively concerned at this point, but it does sort of dent my confidence in him going forward a little bit. So like I said, the final's due for game week 36. I'd guess that Bruno Fernandes plays West Ham, and then it's a possible rest in the Chelsea game before the final. So there'd be 10 days between playing West Ham and the final. So would you need some minutes maybe in between that to sort of keep match fit? It's really hard to sort of predict this. Obviously, if the Atletico game ends up going on longer, I don't think it will, to extra time, then maybe the West Ham game's a rest, and then he plays a little bit against Chelsea and then plays the final. But again, it's just guesswork. But I'm pretty sure I'm just going to keep Bruno Fernandes in now till the end of the season. Garnacho got 12 points, goal and assist in this game. His form's been okay recently. Finally finishing his dinner, though, in this match. 12 points. Really nice finish as well, and that assist for the first goal with Mason Mount. Still getting plenty of minutes. So, again, as a differential, I don't mind Garnacho. Seems to keep playing. I'd just be cautious with any other options now. Diallo was back, got a goal off the bench. I did see his name mentioned a couple of times on the deadline stream that I did on at half time, and then grabbed a late goal, but straight at the keeper. I feel like that one was a little bit fortunate. Ugarte as well. I don't think I'd pick him, but he's had 4 assists in 3 matches, so seems to just be getting those passes or key passes that are leading to goals. So maybe, again, one to watch for next season. On to Chelsea. So the goal drought ends for Cole Palmer, and all it took was a heavily rotated Liverpool midfield and a 96th minute penalty. I'm being nasty there. I'm being bitter. I took Palmer out this game week, and that was enough to get him back scoring. It was a really, really strong performance from Cole Palmer. So looked back to his best, honestly, and did deserve the goal even before the penalty, really. So he'd hit the post earlier on from a ridiculous angle, forced the own goal between Kwanzaa and Virgil van Dijk. So had his part to play in that. But 15 points, 3 bonus, 2 shots on target, tackle points, and a big chance created. Now up to 15 goals, 12 assists for the season. So anyone that doesn't have him, like myself, is probably now thinking, what do I do now? Do I need to panic and get him in for Newcastle? Is he now back to full Cole Palmer? Now, I was just joking around at the start, saying sort of fully rotated Liverpool, 96th minute penalty, but I do think that midfield surely has to play into it. They had Endo, Jones, and Elliott instead of McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch. So I do think that probably did play into it. But Newcastle midfield, that is their strong point now. Joe Linton, I think, is out, but they've got Tonali and Bruno G as well. So I don't think it'll be as easy time in that midfield for Cole Palmer. I'm not going to bring him in for game week 35, I don't think, for Newcastle away. By now, I'm starting to look at game week 36. Manchester United at home. I've just mentioned, could that be a match where they heavily rotate? And if it's a United team that is similar to the one they put out against Brentford, I am going to want Cole Palmer for that one. So Cole Palmer probably back in for game at 36, in my opinion. And then game at 37, it's going to be Forest away from home. And then they'll have, so that's on a Sunday. All the matches are on the Sunday, kicking off at the same time. And then it will be a Wednesday Europa League final. So the final game of the Dream Team season will be Chelsea. And I feel like you're going to want to have Cole Palmer for that one. So I think game week 36 seems the logical time for me to bring him back in. Because also, once they get to the final, once the Premier League is finished, is there any need for them to then put out a rotated team? I don't really think so. Probably going to be full strength for Forest. then pretty much full strength for that final game of the season, I would imagine, at least. So Cole Palmer, that's my plan. Game at 36, I think, and brave it for one more match. But before I brave it for the Newcastle match, I've still got to deal with a little bit of pain this evening where he plays potentially against Eurogarden. So touchwood, doesn't batter me too much, that one. Enzo Fernandez, 5 returns in his last 4 matches. Now, he's been mentioned on and off throughout the season. I've seen a few of you guys bringing in Enzo at different points in the season. I never really feel like he's delivered at the points where people sort of wanted him or went for him. I don't know if that's me. Let me know in the comments below if you've had a good Enzo experience this season. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the times where he's been called upon, he hasn't done great. But I just looked back, 20 attacking returns this season for Enzo Fernandez. That's more like what Chelsea must have wanted from him when they put that massive outlay for him. So really strong season. He's come away with 12 points in this match, a goal, and maybe someone again. I'll be saying this maybe towards the end of the season, but maybe someone that we should be considering. There's a few players in midfield that maybe aren't the sexiest of picks, but seem to be ticking along quite nicely. Enzo springs to mind. Declan Rice springs to mind. Tielemans springs to mind. So maybe we shouldn't be sleeping on these more sort of defence-minded midfielders that do still chip in with attacking returns. I don't love these Chelsea fixtures, so I think Newcastle away is a tough one. Man United on paper is a tough one, but I just don't think it's going to be. And then Forest will make it tough in that final game of the season in game at 37, with both teams likely fighting it out now for Champions League places. But I just think I'm going to want a Chelsea player for that final game of the season in the Europa Conference final. I think Jackson was popular on the deadline stream as well. I wasn't really feeling that one, but I know a few of you went there for Jackson. He came with 5 points without the attacking return, which is still a pretty good return for a blank. So 2 shots on target, 3 tackles, and -5 PPM. I had to look at this. He was offside 4 times in the game, but yeah, 5 points, decent enough return. He matched Mbumo. Aston Villa, so confirmed fixture change for them, like I mentioned. So their match against Spurs is moved to the Friday night now in Gameweek 36. But they've got Bournemouth to play away from home first. No doubles for them from now to the end of the season, but they potentially do play a possible rotated Spurs team in Gameweek 36 and possibly a rotated United team in Gameweek 37, having played the Europa League final, or potentially played the Europa League final a couple of days before. So Villa, maybe worth targeting for 36, 37. I'm not really feeling the Bournemouth match. Tielemans' 5th goal of the season against Fulham. So 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 returns for him this season. It's the 5th highest midfielder on the game, and that's mostly down to bonus, I think. So the most bonus points out of anyone on the game, I think, is a good shout for next season, but probably have missed the best chance now. A lot of his appeal is the fact that he's played the most, he's had the most starts in all of European competitions this season. So I think the double game weeks was his best appeal, but again, that's now ended. Morgan Rogers, so felt like a quieter game, I thought, but still came with 5 points and could have jumped to 7 points because he was really close to hitting 3 bonus marks as well. I still think he's a sellable asset for this game week to try and chase those upside fixtures, like I mentioned, from City, Brentford, for example. But game week 36 and 37, I think he could do well in those games. Spurs and United conceding a load of goals. And he's only 23% owned now. So he is pretty much a differential. So there is an argument that if you have got Rodgers at this point, you could just keep him as a differential pick. Watkins, 3 points. I think if you went for Watkins last week, you were quite unlucky. He had 2 big chances missed. I think it's quite a promising performance, to be honest. And I think there is a temptation to maybe go there in 36 or 37 if you aren't looking to try and get the extra games out of the European sides. But yeah, Watkins, I still don't mind it as a differential, but he was subbed in the 71st minute for Donnell Marlon. Palace drew 1-1 with Forest. They've actually only won 1 match in their last 5, which surprised me. It doesn't feel that way. I feel like Palace are on a bit of a feel-good vibe at the moment. But yeah, the recent results maybe don't say the same thing. There was a few draws in there as well. But The Dream Team assets are still doing it. Eze with a goal, 60th minute penalty. Stutter run up. He was trusted to take this one after Mateta missed the last one, and he missed the one before that, Eze. So Eze looks like he's back on the pens. 12 points, 3 bonus, 11 goals, 11 assists for the season. He's always a decent pick on Dream Team, and he could be a good pick for a match against a possible rotated Spurs side. Gameweek 36, I'd expect he probably starts both in the double, City in the FA Cup final and Wolves at home. But then I don't really, I mean, it's not a problem to have him, is it, away at Liverpool, but that is a tougher fixture. So will he start? Will he start against Spurs with that City final 6 days after? I imagine he will. He started the Arsenal game, which was 3 days before the semi-final. So I think if he's going to do that, he's probably going to do it for the final. But he did just play the 63 minutes against Arsenal, but that was enough time for him to score a bit of a banger in that one. So I think Eze, decent enough pick this game week. I think Mateta, 2-pointer this week. He's been a bit more inconsistent than Eze. I've seen a lot of people have Mateta at times and be quite frustrated. So I think I would probably sell Mateta. I think there are better options than Mateta for this game week, but certainly do like the Eze pick. Munoz, again, I just don't think he does any harm, does he? 4 points this week. I think he's fine to hold through till the end of the season. Never any concern about starts. Rarely does fully blank. So again, Munoz, I think he's a decent enough buy this week if you haven't got him either. Then Wolves. So Man City ended their 6-game win streak with a 1-0 win. But I still fancy Wolves to end the season in a strong way. So Brighton at home, Crystal Palace away, and then Brentford at home. So 2 home games in their last 3. I'm going to start it off with Ait-Nouri. Cunha's the one that we talk about the most, but Ait-Nouri has been fantastic, hasn't he? So double chance in this game against Manchester City. So it's just always all action with him. So he hits the post, it comes back to him. He then beats Edison, but has it cleared off the line by Vardiol. So could again have been much more for Ait-Nouri. 5 goals, 7 assists for the season. The week previous, he'd had 17 points. He's 3rd for shots on target out of defenders. He's 5th for tackles out of defenders. He's got a massive 34 bonus points. So he's just one of these defenders that scores in a load of different ways. And if he does end up with a big move at the end of the season, he's going to be someone that I can see us all picking for future seasons. He might have been lucky to not get a red card for, I think it was a tackle on Bernardo Silva. He sort of just went over the ball, and I thought it was pretty high, to be honest. I think he was pretty lucky. But stayed on the pitch, and he's an option for next week now. So just the 3 matches that I really do like him as a pick, actually, and am considering him for my own team. The only thing I'm now weighing up is it 3 games of Ait-Nouri, or do I take a chance on a Porro, who's probably in that same tier of levels for bonus, attack and returns, that kind of thing. But then 4 games of Porro, we're not getting 4 games of Porro if they get to the final. It's going to be 3. Could it even be less? I don't think it will be. I think it'll probably be 3. So and then you're weighing up 3 of Porro versus 3 of Ait-Nouri. And then a similar story for Cucurella. In fact, I think there's probably a better chance that you get 4 out of Cucurella with that final European match being at the end of the season. So that's something to weigh up. Do you think 3 of Ait-Nouri is better than, say, a potential 4 of Porro, Cucurella, or even maybe Vardiol? I think Vardiol will play all 4. On to Cunha. So struck the post from distance. Could have had an assist. He was the guy that passed the ball to Ait-Nouri, who hit the post. But it was a 2-point blank. A bit disappointed by that one. I do feel a little bit hard done by it. Could have been so much different. But hey, it was City. We knew this was going to be a hard game. I took the decision to hold him for the City game, despite it being a tough fixture, because I think I want to keep him for the rest of the season. So full 5 striker on the game, 17 goals, 7 assists. I expect now that with this City loss and a 2-point blank, he's probably not going to be that popular this week. And he's on 13.5% ownership. And I'm looking for differentials now from sort of now to the end of the season. I think he fits the bill. So I think Cunha, still a decent enough pick if you're willing to go there, while others aren't. Forest, so Leicester at home this week. It's a prime fixture, but their form's just been a little bit iffy. So a 1-1 draw against Palace, nothing wrong with that. But it's one win in their last 6 now. I just wonder, are they running out of steam a little bit? But it's Leicester at home, followed by West Ham away. I mean, that's 2 of the better fixtures you can ask for towards the end of the season. Chris Wood, though, we've got to weigh up what he's done this season versus what he's done recently. So 19 goals, 3 assists for the season. Just incredible return. But it's just 1 goal, 1 assist in his last 10 matches, which doesn't sound so great. He's on pens, obviously, but they don't seem to be getting them at the moment. And in the 5 matches that he's been back from injury, so he had a few games missed through injury. In the last 5 games back from injury, he's had just 1 shot on target. That's the concern. Before, he wasn't taking that many shots or getting that many shots on target, but he was clinical. He's scoring them all. He still is clinical. That 1 shot on target in that 5 games, he scored it, but it's just not getting enough chances at the minute. So I feel like even though it's Leicester at home and a prime fixture, I'm starting to think that maybe this is a bit risky compared to a few of the other options. 4 of his last 5 matches have been 2-pointers. Elanga, 2 shots on target against Palace, 3 shots on target against Brentford. So 5 shots in the last 2 games. He's the guy that's getting the shots at the minute, not Chris Wood. So he could be a differential shout if you're interested. But yeah, I'm not feeling it so much. 6 goals, 10 assists for him. Both could be nice differentials, though. If you are primarily focusing on the fixture and you think the fixture is what's going to bring him back into form, then it's a shout. It definitely is a shout. But I'm finding it hard to sort of target Forest versus Leicester over a match like Brentford versus Ipswich with the way that current form has been. Then lastly, my team Arsenal. Do we need to talk about it, really? 2-1 loss to Bournemouth with a full strength lineup, which surprised me. Full strength apart from Timber and Marino, left out for White and Trossard. But after last night, it's now 3 losses in a row with that 2-1 loss to PSG. No wins in our last 4 matches, and now we're out of the Champions League. I think we're in danger of maybe losing that second place spot. I know it's second place isn't a trophy, but it'll be disappointing to not wrap up second, I think, this season. So yeah, where do we go with our Arsenal players now? So Saka, 3 points against Bournemouth. Again, I was just shocked to see such a strong team out against Bournemouth, but I guess the gap has slowly closed with this bad form between us and City and some of the other teams that we now have to make sure we do get points now from now to the end of the season. I think a win against Southampton has a safe top 4 or top 5 anyway, but yeah. Saka, 12 points, goal against PSG. 12 goals, 17 assists for the season. He missed a massive chance for a second goal in that game as well, but couldn't quite put that one away. Could have been a massive haul, but again, 12 points, decent enough return, 15 points for the week. Now, I think he's going to start every game from now to the end of the season. Now, with Liverpool, Newcastle, and Southampton, we're going to want to respond. I do think 35 and 36 are tough fixtures, but I think Saka is one of them players that can do it. But I also do think that if you are looking to take a risk, you can possibly take him on as well. But you are taking on the crowd. So I think I'm going to keep Saka. But I do think you could possibly remove him if you're chasing in your mini leagues or chasing rank. Declan Rice, 8th goal of the season against Bournemouth. So 10 points. And then just the 2 points against PSG, picked up a yellow. I think he's been fantastic over the last few weeks. In a few weeks where I can't say that any Arsenal players at the moment are sort of playing at their very, very best. I think Rice is probably the only one that is. So I think he's had a great season, but I think he can probably be sold now. I think with Liverpool and Newcastle up next, Even Southampton, final game of the season, I wouldn't say that's a fixture where you'd specifically think Declan Rice will haul in this one. So I think Saka could be worth holding and just keeping for 37. It could also be a captaincy shout for 37. I think Rice could be sold from now on. And I think the Arsenal defence are sellable. So I'm not expecting clean sheet against Liverpool. I'm not expecting a clean sheet against Newcastle. Of course, Southampton is a great one to end the season. But yeah, can you beat your Saliba or your Timber with a Vardiol, Munoz, Porro, Ait-Nouri, Kukurea? I think you can. So I do think Arsenal defence sellable. Raya, if I had him, probably just keep him. And then Liverpool, I probably wasn't going to include them in this, but their first game after winning the league, they lose 3-1 to Chelsea. They've earned the right to do that now. Rotation in midfield, McAllister, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. Quansah also in for Konate. I wouldn't be surprised if they go full strength now against Arsenal. There's nothing on the line, but is there mentally something in this game, Liverpool, Arsenal? If Liverpool can do us over sort of right late on in the season again, will that carrying that into next season be a bit of a buzz? I think they'll go strong. Salah, 33 goals, 23 assists for the season. That's a joke, isn't it? Such an amazing return. But 4 points against Chelsea. Still only 2 attacking returns in his last 8 matches. So I think with Salah, it's just a case of if you're happy in your mini league and you're happy with your overall rank, just see it out. Keep Salah. Let your opponents do the crazy moves and just keep him. He's always got the pens. He's always a great finisher. I would say slightly off it a little bit. So I think you can take it on if you're chasing rank, chasing your mini leagues. But again, if you're in a good spot, just keep him. There's no need to move it. I think defensively though for Liverpool, it's a similar story to Arsenal. So I would be happy to sell my Liverpool defence or keeper. So I've got Addison, and I'm kind of looking now. Arsenal next, possibly could move on. Brighton and Palace after that. It's not terrible, but just the way that Liverpool defended against Chelsea, I think they're going to probably be a little bit complacent from now to the end of the season. So I'd probably look to move on Liverpool defence, although Virgil van Dijk did pop up with a goal. Trent has fully announced that he's leaving, so I don't think there's guarantees that he starts now. And yeah, probably wouldn't pick him. And if McAllister, again, I've talked about next season. He could be another one that sort of goes under the radar. So 4 attacking returns in his last 5 matches from McAllister, and he's been pretty consistent throughout the season. So another one to possibly watch. Captaincy for game week 35. So you've got Marmoush and Haaland. I think if we do get a leak that one of them or both of them are starting, I think you'd prioritise Haaland as your captain if you saw both were starting. But I think Marmoush, again, if you see starts, I think he's a decent enough shout. I just think there's a little bit of positional concern if he ends up on that right-hand side or not playing as the striker. I do think he is a little bit less effective. So don't think it's perfect. I'd be more keen to go Haaland if I knew he was starting. Brian Mbeumo, Ipswich away. I think people might hesitate to go there with the 5-point assist and a little disappointment in the last game, but I think he's a really, really solid pick for this game week. And like I said, if you've got Mbeumo sort of 50% owned already, having him as captaincy could sort of push you more into that sort of differential territory. Bruno Fernandes, West Ham at home, typically a great fixture, but I do think that confidence is probably dented a little bit now that he was rested for the last one. Chris Wood, Leicester at home, it's a great fixture, but recent form and Forest's form, I think, is a little bit of a concern. Good chance of getting a 2-pointer, I think, but again, that fixture, Leicester home, does look great. I think Eze is an exciting one. So Spurs away, I think, is a shout. I think Spurs probably do rotate, so you'll be playing against a rotated defence possibly. But I do think there is a chance that you could end up having a sort of 65, 70 minutes sub for Eze as your captain. So there would be a slight bit of minutes risk, I think, potentially, as they wrap up these players ready for the FA Cup final. And then Salah, Palmer, always captaincy shouts, aren't they, with pens and just their brilliance, really. But Arsenal at home for Salah, I don't love it. I know it's Salah still, but I don't love that fixture. And then Newcastle away for Palmer. I know he's just had a great week, but I don't think I'm ready to say everything that came before that is forgotten. I still think it's a tough game. So I don't really like Palmer or Salah. I don't think I'll be capping either of those. And Cunha for Brighton. I don't think it's the best fixture, but I do think it is a fixture that he could do quite well in. So again, another captaincy shout. Let me know who you're going for this game week. Out of the options there, I'm kind of thinking I like the look of Mbumo maybe as a sort of temporary captain until maybe I see if there are any leaks for City with Marmoush Haaland up against Southampton. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking. Right, on to my team update. So it's been a pretty painful week this week. So 63 points. Yeah, 112th down to 130th on the overall leaderboard. So a big drop there. I was actually 96th pre the Palmer haul. So I just had the good returns in that Man City game the day before. And it was looking quite promising. So my moves were Palmer to Brian Mbumo and Salah to Marmoush. I really wanted to target the fixtures. I knew the risks when I made these moves. I wanted to go differential. I would have been happy if you offered me like one around the 100 mark at the start of the season. But now I've actually got there. I really want to keep pushing on till the end of the season and try and catch up in a couple of mini leagues. I'm in some really competitive mini leagues and I wanted to do something a bit different to try and catch up. So I felt like going against Palmer and Salah in a match where they were playing each other seemed like an okay move. But it has backfired this week. So I'm down 12 points and it could still get a lot worse with Palmer playing Eurogarden this evening. So minus 12 on those moves. I think Bumo, I think it was quite unlucky. 4 goals for Brentford against United and just 1 assist for Bumo. Just one goal from him would have made this a quite competitive week, I think. And then Salah versus Marmoush, not really much in it. Just the 2 points gained by Salah over Marmoush. So the big pain has come from Palmer, but I'm not too disappointed at the decision. It'd been disappointing in quite a few weeks before that. So I don't mind it too much. And I'm willing to take it on again, but I am a little bit worried about this evening. So captaincy blank so far hasn't helped, but I think a lot of people in the same boat there with Bruno Fernandes. Athletic Bilbao to play tonight though. So hopefully some returns there. Like I said, dodged the points a little bit with Brian Mbumo, but again, great fixture this week. I think Cunha was unlucky as well. Hit the post, very close to getting an assist. But I can't complain too much. Had a goal from Kevin De Bruyne, a clean sheet and some bonus from Vardiol. Goal from Isak and 15-point return from Saka with that goal last night. So still a decent amount of returns there. But yeah, Palmer, the real big difference and the real cause of my drop in rank. So like I said, 112th down to 130th. So these are my initial thoughts pre-Europa League. So last few weeks, I've sort of focused on trying to move my attacking 7 around to really target the fixtures. And to be honest, that was going to be the plan from now until the end of the season. I felt like Alisson, Saliba, Munoz, Vardiol were strong enough defensive options to sort of see me through to the end of the season. I don't really like making goalkeeper changes. It just hasn't really paid off for me when I've done it this season. And then Saliba, I've been happy to keep him in there with the hope that there could have been a Champions League final, but obviously that has recently changed as well. So looking at my team now, Alisson playing Arsenal, Saliba playing Liverpool, doesn't look great. Munoz, Spurs, I think is fine. Vardiol, Southampton's great. But I quite like my front 7 here. So I've got Bumo, Ipswich away. Bruno, West Ham at home. De Bruyne, Southampton away. And then Saka, Liverpool away from home. I do think that's a tough fixture, but Saka still can deliver. A bit like how Palmer did last week. I think that's got potential to backfire if you do take him out. Cunha, Brighton home. I mean, I'm not going to sell Cunha now because I was willing to hold him through the City game to get the rest of the fixtures after for him. So I'm going to keep Cunha. Isak for Chelsea. Now, I had spoken about potentially moving him out for that Chelsea fixture. I'm just trying to think what's making me want to change because now I kind of don't want to do it. And it's probably got to be weighing up the fact they scored that penalty goal late on. I was willing to accept the late penalty goal for Isak, but I was disappointed about the late penalty goal for Palmer. But maybe that Palmer move has sort of weighed into my thinking a little bit. I've seen the damage it can do when you go against a highly owned player like Palmer. That could also happen if I took Isak out. So possibly keep for Chelsea. I'm still debating that one. And then Marmoush, Southampton, you're going to just leave him there, aren't you? Unless you see someone isn't starting. So got to weigh it up now. Initial thoughts was I was going to try and target more attackers, but looking at my team, the bit I'm least happy with probably feels a bit like Alisson and Saliba. So I think eyes on the leaks for the City game. And like I said, if Haaland's starting or I find out one of Marmoush or KDB aren't, I could make some changes there to try and get Haaland back in the team. But game at 36 double, don't really want to play around with the City players too much. Palmer, I'm willing to keep going against it for a little while, at least until that game week 36 United match. So what are the possible moves I'm looking at? Alisson and Saliba. The replacements probably would be Edison or Diaz, but it's getting two of them a bit too risky. So that would put me on 3 City at the back. It would be a differential. It would be a high risk, high reward play. I'm not sure if I love making both of those moves. If I replaced just one of Alisson and Saliba, I think it would be Saliba at this point. So Newcastle, Liverpool in the next 2, I think it's quite tough there. Saliba's not really getting any extra points at the minute. So I think a move from Saliba to Ruben Diaz would be okay to get the 2 fixtures. Obviously, the Southampton fixture this week, but then the 2 fixtures the week after. That would be the fixture play. I think out of any, I think Diaz is pretty nailed on for playing all of the fixtures from now to the end of the season. But it doesn't have the excitement of maybe going for an Ait-Nouri, Porro, or Cucurella. So I'd have to weigh up, do I want the extra game out of Diaz, but he's not as effective as a point scorer, or go for the explosive Ait-Nouri, Porro, Cucurella, and just punt on trying to get an attacking return or a goal between now and the end of the season. I think Diaz, it's clean sheets. Those other 3, you could fancy an attacking return in these final few games. I think the Haaland leak would be too hard to ignore. So in that case, it would probably be a case of changing Saliba to a defender. And then depending on the team news, it would be Haaland in for someone. I think Marmoush to Haaland would work if Marmoush was benched. But if Marmoush was starting and Haaland was starting, I think it'd be Isak to Haaland, maybe captain Haaland. But would that then mean that De Bruyne was benched? And would I just sit through the Kevin De Bruyne benching to get the double next week? It's hard. If I was ignoring the defensive moves, it would probably be a look of getting maybe Haaland in alongside an Eze in midfield. But then who do I take out in midfield? Would it be Isak and Saka? I know I went against Salah and Haaland last week, but no Salah, no Haaland, no Saka, no Isak would really be taking on the crowd. Isak's at 66% ownership, Saka 88% ownership. So yeah, who do you think's the better sell if I was to sell one of Isak, Saka? Saka the higher owned, Isak. Chelsea home looks like a slightly better fixture. Both penalty takers, both very risky. So I think defensive move plus goalkeeper move, probably a little bit boring, but it does allow me to keep that front 7 that looks quite nice. So captaincy, I think currently just going to slap it on and Mbumo, but I would be willing to probably change it to a City player if it was confirmed that they started. Let me know how you got on this game week. If you've got any questions going into game week 35, as always, drop them in the comments below. I won't be about for a deadline stream. I am out for a friend's birthday on Saturday, so won't be a deadline stream from me at the weekend. So get the comments in. I'll get back to you. And do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. Our latest episode is out now. I'll leave a link in the description below to that one. Do check that one out if you look after a bit more Dream Team content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.